I welcome everyone to today's session of environmental economics. In the previous class, we talked about the market for beds and how firms produce, manage the beds using their production possibility frontier, and how the consumers manage the beds using their difference curves. Okay, so now what we are going to do is to talk about cost benefit analysis regarding the beds and the goods. So we'll start with today's session. So we have already seen that under some assumptions, consumer and producer surplus is maximized at the market equilibrium, and the market produces at Pareto optimum. So we already know in the microeconomics that when there is an equilibrium, firms are producing at a Pareto optimal level. So it is best possible combination of output where both sellers and buyers are optimized. Where when we talk about the demand and supply, so this is the demand curve and this is the supply curve. So when we talk about this equilibrium, we already know that for the consumers we already have maximized the budget line and indifference curves, and there's an equilibrium for that. And for the seller, we already talked about that is the production possibility frontier, and then there's an price ratio where they decide which product to produce. Okay, uh, so this was the indifference curve theory and the production possibility PPF that we already discussed. So since they have already they have found individual optimal value among the two possible combinations as a buyer, and in the production possibility frontier, they have found the best combination between the two products that they can produce. So it means individually they found Pareto optimality in the options that they have, and then jointly they found the Pareto optimality in the market. In the case of environmental goods, where there is one which may include public goods and externalities, market cannot always lead to Pareto optimum point. It talks about that sometimes the goods are public goods. We'll talk about it in detail. And some goods are actually not goods, they are externalities or some services that you are getting for free. It can be a good service, positive externality, or a negative externality. Okay, so in that case, it's not guaranteed that it is Pareto optimal because either seller or buyer is missing because it's a public good. Nobody is maintaining that, or nobody is the buyer. Okay, so now we talked about, can economics help to determine whether the intervention in the market can get us back to Pareto optimum? It means the role of government. Can government achieve Pareto optimality in the cases where there is not? Cost benefit analysis is economics primary contribution, and its goal its goal the identification of intervention and maximizing the surplus. So this says that we can use this tool that is developed by economics. So we call it BCA, benefit cost analysis, or sometimes CBA, cost benefit analysis, which can help us to find the best intervention based upon its benefits or losses. Okay, so I will summarize it कि हमने जब माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ा
सर
था,
ये
सो हमने इस स्लाइड में क्या पढ़ा कि जो लास्ट सेशन वाला टॉपिक था उसमें बात हो रही थी कि अगर कोई गुड बैड हो, यानी वो हमने बैड और गुड की डेफिनेशन डिस्कस की थी लास्ट क्लास में। अगर वो बैड हो और कंज्यूमर इक्विलिब्रियम में बैड, एक तरफ बैड और एक तरफ गुड हो, तो कैसे मैनेज होगा, और एज अ सेलर एक तरफ बैड और एक तरफ गुड हो तो कैसे मैनेज होगा। तो हमने उस क्लास में उसको डिस्कस किया। अब आगे बात आने लगी है कि वो जरूरी नहीं है कि वो बैड हो, वो एक एनवायरमेंटल गुड हो सकती है। ठीक है, जो हमने यहाँ डिस्कस की। ठीक है, एनवायरमेंटल गुड का मतलब ये है कि वो कोई पब्लिक पार्क हो सकता है, और कोई वो फॉरेस्ट हो सकता है, वो क्लीन एयर हो सकती है, दैट इज बीइंग हेल्पिंग पीपल। ठीक है, तो अगर वो पब्लिक गुड है तो इसका मतलब है बाय डेफिनेशन वी डू नॉट हैव anyone else who is managing them. मैनेजिंग का क्या मतलब है कि अगर वो पब्लिक फॉर एग्जांपल इट्स अ फॉरेस्ट सो व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि देयर इज नो सेलर हु इज रिप्लेनिशिंग कि अगर हम दरख्त काट रहे हैं या हम पोल्यूशन कर रहे हैं देयर इज नोबडी इज देयर हु इज क्लीनिंग अप द फॉरेस्ट सो इट मींस दैट पब्लिक गुड इज बीइंग depreciated gradually और उसके मुकाबले में लेट्स सपोज एक पॉजिटिव एक्सटर्निटी है कि वी हैव मेड पब्लिक पार्क और वो लोग वहाँ वॉक एंजॉय कर रहे हैं बट नोबडी इज मेंटेनिंग दैट because the park is technically free वो ओपन है उसकी कोई बाउंड्रीज नहीं है so what is happening is that people are enjoying the park but they are also throwing litter or they are also disturbing the ecosystem so how we can find an equilibrium मतलब है कि वहाँ पे कोई डिमांडर्स होंगे और वहाँ पे कुछ सप्लायर्स होंगे so if it is a public good so the supplier is naturally so the park is naturally maintaining itself and the demanders are people so if the people are using it beyond the capacity of the nature कि नेचर की कैपेसिटी है कि वो अगर अब लोग गुजर रहे हैं घास खराब हो रहे हैं तो 3-4 दिन बाद घास खुद ही ठीक हो जाता है या वहाँ पे थोड़ी अगर वो वहाँ पे एक दरिया गुजर रहा है या झील है अगर वहाँ पानी गंदा होता है तो नया पानी आके उसको साफ कर देता है तो ये उसका एक रेट है जिसमें वो अपने आप को मैनेज कर रहा है ठीक है या फॉरेस्ट है कि अगर हम दरख्त काट दें तो वहां पे ऑटोमेटिकली पोलिनेशन हो रही है और नए दरख्त खुद ही उग रहे हैं सो बट प्रॉब्लम इज कि अगर लोग उसको एंजॉय करेंगे इन्वायरमेंटल गुड को और एक्सटर्नलिटी को व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि ग्रेजुअली उनका यूजेज उनकी सप्लाई से ज्यादा हो जाएगा और ग्रेजुअली ये पब्लिक गुड्स व्हाट वी कॉल इट डिप्लीट हो जाएंगे ठीक है तो परेटो ऑप्टिमैलिटी कहता है कि इसका बैलेंस इस तरह हो कि दोनों को नुकसान ना हो तो हमने डिस्कस किया क्योंकि पब्लिक गुड में या एक्सटर्नलिटी में या बायर नहीं है या सेलर नहीं है तो वो कोई एक साइड से वो खराब हो रहा है तो वो परेटो ऑप्टिमल नहीं है तो हम आगे डिस्कस करने लगे हैं कि हाउ इकोनॉमिक्स कैन हेल्प टू फाइंड दैट परेटो ऑप्टिमैलिटी और उसके लिए द टूल दैट वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस टुडे इज कॉस्ट बेनिफिट एनालिसिस कि अगर गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन करे तो गवर्नमेंट इंटरवेंशन का मकसद क्या होगा सरप्लस इंक्रीज हो so can we increase the surplus so this we will study in the next slide so in the next slide we are talking about measuring the effect of government programs okay, if the government is trying to manage public good okay public good or what you call it become supplier it is taking responsibility to supply those now we consider Chetty Mul it's produces garbage as a byproduct of wine production. So there is one factory that is producing garbage while producing wine, and there is a company called Brewster that supplies garbage disposal. So Brewster is a garbage demander or supplier of garbage disposal, and Chetty is a garbage supplier or demander for garbage disposal. So I will clarify it here. So one company is Chetty that is garbage supplier or garbage disposal demander. And the other company is Brewster that is garbage demander and or garbage disposal supplier. So you can study this topic in terms of any of the idea कि या तो garbage disposal एंगल से डिस्कस कर लें या garbage सिर्फ garbage से so उसने क्या किया कि the y-axis is the price of garbage disposal so इसका मतलब है वो garbage disposal product को as a base डिस्कस कर रहा है so garbage disposal service and the quantity that has been discussed in the product is garbage disposal so Chatrimol is the demander, तो उसकी demand का will be negatively sloped. We already know कि demand में quantity और price negatively, quantity and price are negatively related. Okay, so this is the demand curve. Okay, and this is supply curve. We already know that Brewster is a garbage disposal supplier, so that's why it is positively sloped. Okay, at fully functional in market, if the market is working, if it is equilibrium, we will have this equilibrium values. This is Q star, how much garbage can be disposed, means quantity demand or quantity supply of garbage disposal, and they will be equal because in equilibrium quantity demand is equal to quantity supply, and this is the price of the garbage disposal. Yani the seller or the supplier of garbage disposal will charge this much to clean this much garbage or dispose this much garbage, and since it is equilibrium, Chatrimol will also accept this price as a cost to acquire this much garbage disposal service. I hope this is clear right now. So here we can see that if it is in equilibrium, then the consumer surplus will be A B C D E, A B C D E. So this region, this, let me take a smaller color, and so come back. So this region, I will color it up, is the total surplus point. Okay, I hope you understand. So we have this much surplus in the market. So let's go to the next slide. The next slide. Yeah. So suppose market is not developed, means it is not a perfect equilibrium market, or market not developed means two things. Either it is not perfect competition. For perfect competition, we need many buyer and sellers. So if one of them are very few, then it means that it is not developed. Or in other words, the equilibrium that is formed is suboptimal. And the examples we already discussed in micro. For example, there is a product of um, child labor or minimum wage law or house rents. So the supplier of house and the demander for house, sometimes equilibrium is so high that the people cannot afford the house on rent. So at that market, it is not Pareto equilibrium. Even though there is an equilibrium, like in the child labor, there is an equilibrium, but it is not optimal because children should not work. तो ये एक example थी इसकी. So what will happen if the markets are not optimal, or it's not perfect competition, or the products are against the law, or the prices are unethically high or unethically low? So government has two options, either to control the quantity, या तो वो क्वांटिटी में इंटरवीन करेंगे, जिसको हम ट्रेड में पढ़ते हैं कोटा, कोटा, कि हम क्वांटिटी को लिमिट लगा दें कि यू कैन प्रोड्यूस मोर देन अ सर्टेन नंबर और लेस देन अ सर्टेन नंबर. और टैक्स में we already discussed, it's called tax, or we call price ceiling or floor. These are the methods. So quantity control, government can declare that Q1 is inappropriate. हमें Q1 ही produce करना है. So let's go to previous slide. He talks about that government can say that you should only produce this much. Okay, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं बनाना means it is limiting the supplier of garbage or demander or demander for garbage disposal to not to produce more garbage before this. Technically तो इतना garbage dispose हो सकता है Q star, but government कह सकती है कि इससे ज़्यादा garbage produce ही नहीं करना, because वो जो dispose हो रहा है वो environment को damage कर रहा है. So what will happen, that there again surplus ABDE relative to no market at all. the surplus ABDE is a loss related to competitive surplus loss BCD. तो उसने कहा कि जी यहाँ पे क्या नजर आया है कि जी द सरप्लस ABDE, तो पुरानी डायग्राम में देखें ABDE, बिकॉज हमने क्वांटिटी को लिमिट लगाया, so the demand curve shifts down because they cannot demand more than दिस पॉइंट Q1, तो इक्विलिब्रियम में इससे ऊपर नहीं जा सकते, तो इससे को क्या होगा ABDE इज द न्यू कंज्यूमर सरप्लस, क्योंकि हम C तक नहीं गए, ठीक है. However, there is a surplus gain. ABDE is a loss relative to competitive surplus. Loss equal to BCD. तो उसने कहा कि क्या लॉस होगा हमें BCD. ये triangle is the loss that we will experience because of limiting the quantity. Okay, तो surplus कम हो गया, ठीक है. However, there is a surplus gain ABDE relative to no market. और लेकिन अगर हम दूसरी तरफ से देखेंगे, सपोज देयर वाज नोबडी, नो नो वन प्रोवाइडिंग गार्बेज डिस्पोजल, उससे कंपेयर करें, इफ वी कंपेयर दिस सिचुएशन कि देयर इज नोबडी हु इज पिकिंग अप द गार्बेज और क्लीनिंग अप द एनवायरनमेंट, फ्रॉम दैट सिनेरियो ABDE is a surplus, means from no supply curve. If there was no supply curve, then how much surplus would be? It would be zero because the garbage is not being cleaned. The environment is depreciating quickly. So अगर supply curve आ गई, even though there is a limit of quantity, so there is a surplus of ABDE. This ABDE is bigger than the number which is zero when there is no supplier of garbage disposal. Anyone who has a question here? Next is tax. If there is an existing market, the government can tax output on the previous graph, and the demand curve will drop down to D. Okay. Although the valuation of disposal bag remains constant, the loss related to idea is BCD. So he says that rather than limiting the quantity, you can just apply the tax. If you apply the tax, the product will become expensive, so the price will become P plus T. So the product will become, price will go up, so it will reduce the quantity. It will reduce the quantity by shifting the curve leftward. So this is being shown here. So let's go back. So it means that there is a loss, and which is already discussed here. Surplus loss होगा क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने इंटरवीन किया. That's why perfect competition we talked about, that the government should not intervene, because whenever they intervene, they reduce the consumer surplus. So what are the necessary steps under the taxation? What should we do? We should first of all determine the quantity after taxes, how much quantity should be disposed when the taxes are applied. Determine the surplus with the true demand curve. So we should first of all determine the true demand curve, not the trivial means guesswork or imaginary. Okay, so we should calculate the actual demand, how much garbage disposal should be done. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Next, we talked about the role of secondary markets. Let me remove this part. Role of secondary markets means the markets where the sellers and buyers are there, or the markets where the products can be sold as a raw material or as a secondary good. Means, for example, you have purchased a car and you want to sell it to buy a new car, so you will go towards secondary market. So frequently government action in one of the market influences other markets. So if we want to estimate surplus, it is necessary to count up all other markets that are influenced by government activity. For example, mandated scrubbers will increase the demand for steel. which will increase the demand for iron. So what is talked about by scrubbers means that if the government says that we should clean the road using a scrubber, so what will happen that even though this is compulsory, it will increase the demand for steel by the economy and demand for iron. So it means the economy will grow from this side. So this is called spillover effect. Okay, so it turns out the secondary markets can it turns out secondary market can be ignored. So in this example, he says that in this example, so that example will be discussed later on in detail, and then we'll talk about that what why does he talks about this. Okay, so here he compares the market where the gains are shown that it's a marginal benefit for of pollution reduction. So this is the line and benefit for pollution control. So when they apply the policy, this much is the gain. Now let's talk about a last line that he talks about in the secondary market. As long as the supply curve is flat, we do not have to worry about secondary markets. So he says that this is the number of precipitators and the price of precipitators. Okay, and this is the demand curve for precipitator at different quantities, and this is supply curve. So he says that whenever so until the supply curve is horizontal, means it's perfect competition. A perfect competitive supply curve is horizontal means that the seller can produce the product at any price, and it is and so there will be no issues in the secondary market. Okay, because seller will not be able to change the price because of the spillover effects. In this horizontal line, we came to note that if the line is horizontal, it means seller cannot change the prices using changes in quantity. So this is the thing that the Oates et al. Is talking about, that is a product in which government is intervening in the environmental good. जो प्रोडक्ट environmental good है, जैसे garbage disposal study किया, अगर गवर्नमेंट उसमें इंटरवीन करती है, so just like applying tax, ये shifting downward हो रहा है, just like in the graph that we discussed right now, this applying tax. So until there is no intervention, until the supply curve is horizontal, the secondary market effects will not affect this, because supply curve shift नहीं होगी, या supply curve से price को influence नहीं होगा. So this is he is talking about. Let's move to the next slide. So multiple time periods, yani if we apply the policy and we want to see the effects across the time. So many environmental projects require money today, but they pay benefits in the future. Just like we install solar panels or wind power plants, and it will give us value in the future. In order to evaluate the project, we like to convert all the benefits into current dollars. The standard way to use it, the discount factor. So we calculate the present value. Okay, we already know this with the name NPV, net present value method. For that, we need the discounting factor. Okay, so discounting factor, we in economics we call it discount rate or interest rate. Okay, the net present value formula is sum of all discounted net benefits, benefit minus cost, where the benefits are B and cost are Z and discount factor is beta. Okay, so so example is that you conduct an auction for $1 in payable in here. So he gives an example that let's talk about if you will be getting $1 in year one, and payable for $1 in 1 year, and 2 years, 10 years. So it is talking about how much you will demand for that $1. So when you can ask this question, the answer will tell us what is your discount factor. So ये बता रहा है कि लोगों का डिस्काउंट फैक्टर इस तरह कैलकुलेट होता है कि हाउ दे वैल्यू द मनी. सो दिस बीटा कैन बी कैलकुलेटेड यूजिंग दैट कि इस सोसाइटी में अगर हम उसको कहें कि $100 आज ले लो या साल के बाद कितने डॉलर एक्सेप्ट करोगे कि अभी वाला $100 छोड़ दो. अगर कहे नहीं साल के बाद अगर मुझे $150 दोगे तो मैं अभी वाला 100 लेने को छोड़ देता हूँ. इसका मतलब हुआ कि उसका डिस्काउंट रेट 50% है, यानी 50% ज्यादा पैसे दोगे साल के बाद तो वो आज के $100 छोड़ देगा. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड डिस्काउंट रेट. नेक्स्ट वी टॉक अबाउट so how we calculate the beta. So if we have the production possibility for a tier from the seller and indifference curve from the consumer, and this is the MRT. So we compare today consumption today and consumption in the future. Okay, so if we compare that, the MRT will tell us how we substitute consumption today with consumption in the future. यानी अगर हम एज अ डिमांडर हमारी दो प्रोडक्ट्स आ जाएं, एक कंजम्पशन टुडे एंड कंजम्पशन इन द फ्यूचर, तो उसमें जो हमारा जो बजट लाइन और इंडिफरेंस का जो इंटेंजेड होगा बता रहा होगा कि कितनी कंजम्पशन आज चाहिए और कितनी फ्यूचर में. तो उसकी जो रेट ऑफ चेंज होगा यानी जो स्लोप ऑफ बजट लाइन होगी एज अ डिमांडर या एज अ सेलर, जो स्लोप ऑफ प्राइस रेशियो होगी दैट विल एक्सप्लेन दी what you call it discount factor. तो इसने उसको theoretically इस तरह बताया कि rather than हम consumer behavior में two products डिस्कस करें x and y, assume that the two products are consuming today and consuming tomorrow. So उसके अंदर जो equilibrium build होगा कि आपके पास खाना है उनमें से कौन सा कितना खाना आप कल के लिए छोड़ने को तैयार हो, तो वो जो रेशियो निकलेगी C1/C0, ठीक है, that will tell us the discount factor. Note that T prime is greater than T because $1 invested today yields more tomorrow. So उसने यहाँ पे दिखाया कि जो T है ये इससे छोटा है. What does it mean? Because when you forgo something today, you expect more in the future. तभी आप forgo करेंगे. That's why future value थोड़ी बड़ी ही होगी. ठीक है? I hope you understand this point. Let's move to the next slide. So what are the determinants of this discounting factor? First is consumers rate of time preferences, the willingness to defer consumption, यानी वो आज कितनी consumption छोड़ने को तैयार है, willingness to defer consumption, and how productive investments are, यानी वो जो consumption छोड़ेगा वो जहाँ invest होगी तो investment returns कितने हाई हैं. यानी वो ये सोचेगा कि लेट्स सपोज आई हैव 10 units of food and I consume 5 today and defer the remaining 5, and that 5 will be invested. How much I will get in 1 year or half a year, जब तक defer कर रहा है. If the rate of growth rate is what you call it 50%, then it means जो 5 आज defer किए हैं, after year you will get 7.5. So the change will also have a role to understand how much discounted you will have. So that's 50% you can only get if your investments are productive enough to earn this much. अगर market में rate of return चल रहा है 5% and you're expecting a discount rate of 50%, how it can be possible? ठीक है, clear हुआ? I think then we assume that discounting is exponential. उसने कहा डिस्काउंटिंग एक्सपोनेंशियल भी है. इसका मतलब है कि जितना दूर जाओगे फ्यूचर में इट विल इंक्रीज द इंटरेस्ट रेट. And its example is already there. If you go to your bank and ask them for the saving accounts, so you will notice that there are some saving accounts which are like T-bill accounts where they fix your savings for a certain time period. ठीक है, तो you will notice that जिसमें time period बड़ा है और the accounts which have longer maturity dates, they have higher interest rates. So that's it talking about that. when we discount something for future, and the more in the future we go, the higher the interest rate we try to put it on, because उतना ही हमें sacrifice करना पड़ा है. So the formula is beta t, means discount rate as a function of time. So it is beta power t. So more the increase in t. So and beta is already know, because this is a compounding factor. So it can be written as 1 plus r. So the term that we discussed in the slide, that is uh, discussed here, discounting factor, which is equal to compounding with time as a power. So it implies that beta is 1 over 1 plus r. So अगर इसके कहने का मतलब है कि अगर कंपाउंडिंग डिस्काउंट एक्सपोनेंशियल होगी, सो अगर हम उसको कन्वर्ट करेंगे, सो इट इज इक्वल टू 1 over 1 minus 1 divided by r. So क्योंकि t we don't know what is the number, तो उसको सॉल्व करने का तरीका होता है इस तरह. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल. और हाउ वी नो ये आंसर आया, बिकॉज वी आर इन दिस कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल इकोनॉमिक्स, वेयर वी स्टडी द प्रॉपर्टी. We know that if a discount rate, if a bond is giving us returns to till infinite time periods, then we convert that bond into this. Okay, अगर किसी term की power infinite हो, so it can be converted into this. So mathematically, so the discount factor is equal to 1 over 1 minus interest rate or discount rate. For example, R is 5%, implies that even difference between $0.01 today versus $1 in 100 years. यानी इसने कहा अगर 5% इंटरेस्ट रेट हो, आर हो, तो 5% आर का मतलब है कि आपको अगर $0.01 आज मिल रहा हो, तो वो किस चीज के इक्वल है? 100 साल बाद $1 के. ठीक है, तो दिस इज द कैलकुलेशन. हाउ ही कैलकुलेटेड? So you can put the value of R here and have a look what is the answer. ठीक है, this is troubling when we think about stopping climate change. ठीक है, where the benefits are very distant and what we do about it. तो इसने कहा कि अगर हम ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट में काम करने लगे हैं जहाँ पे हमें बेनिफिट बड़ी देर बाद मिलेगा, जैसे we make a dam or we install solar panels or we install wind power plants and reduce the fossil energy. तो so उसमें रिटर्न्स बड़ी देर बाद आने हैं, तो how we will motivate people to sacrifice today's benefit using fossil energy, यानी वो coal यूज कर रहे हैं, गैस यूज कर रहे हैं, wood यूज कर रहे हैं. How will motivate them to not to enjoy the benefits today and enjoy them in the future. ठीक है, और वो भी बहुत दूर में है. So how we motivate? He said two strategies. Try to reduce their discount rate, means and do not use the exponential discount rate. So इसको applied term में क्या बोलेंगे? Discount rate कम करने का मतलब है teach them ethical or green behavior. Teach them that it's their duty to clean the environment, so that they don't ask for high rate of return in the for going their consumption. वो voluntary तैयार हो जाने चाहिए उनको कि वो consumption को कम कर लें ताकि environment clean हो सके, rather than हम उनको कहें कि जी आप consumption कम कर लें, हम आपको future में फायदा देंगे. Secondly, exponential नहीं होना चाहिए. दोनों चीजों के लिए we should teach them green behavior. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now problems of implementation, how we will implement. When income changes, there is a change in supply and demand curves. तो हमने जो supply and demand curve पहले discuss की, it will also shift. Can we really get a year of surplus and account of these changes? So it means whenever there is a change in demand and supply curve, there will be a change in surplus. So how we can keep a note on कि इस time surplus कितना है. How do we value changes in income distribution? हमारी poor countries में there is income inequality. So when we talk about the equilibrium, it's not guarantee कि सबको बराबर मिल रहा है. Winners rarely compensate losers. We just note that benefits are greater than costs. तो उसने कहा कि यूजली जो हमने कंपनसेशन प्रिंसिपल पढ़ा था पीछे, तो वहां पे गारंटी नहीं है कि जी विनर्स लूजर्स को शेयर करें. समटाइम्स they have the power, either they are ruling party, uh, or they can just bribe their way out of it, or they are too rich that the compensation does not is equal to justifiable amount. Where do MWTP estimate come from? That was willingness to pay. So how do we calculate the willingness to pay? This is also issue. हमने वो पिछले chapters में भी discuss किया कि जी the compensation method and willingness to pay method में issue था. Pre-existing distortions. Theory of second best. Supply and demand curve may be distorted, making supply measures difficult to obtain. उसने कहा कि क्या पता इक्विलिब्रियम में पहले से ही ऐसे issues हैं, so we don't know what is the actual supply curve, and then we cannot find a best solution. So this is the problems. The last slide, this is called Kalman critique. उसने इसको summarize किया कि moral decision exists that go beyond cost benefit analysis. Cost benefit analysis really exclusively on the philosophy of utilitarianism. It ignores the duties not to die, kill or reap. तो इसके कहने का मतलब है कि जो मैंने पहले डिस्कस किया कि we should teach the green behavior, okay, we should teach them ethically financing, we should teach them religion, that they have responsibility of hukuk al-ibad, so they should not always measure environmental responsibilities as a commercial activity कि जहाँ पे वो कहेंगे जी हमने तो पैसे छोड़े हैं तो हमें compensation दो. They should think it as a responsibility to protect the environment. समझ आई? तो इसने यहाँ पे ये किया, केलमन ने कहा कि हमें यूटिलिटेरिज्म से आगे आना चाहिए और हमें उनको मोरालिटी भी सिखानी चाहिए. वी कैन नॉट पुट अ डॉलर वैल्यू मैनी थिंग्स. हम हर चीज की डॉलर वैल्यू में ये नहीं कर सकते कि हम बताएंगे वो जो कंजम्पशन छोड़ रहा है हाउ मच वी शुड कॉम्पनसेट हिम इन द फ्यूचर. ठीक है, तो so sometimes morality should supersede. Given 1 and 2, why should we bother with their cost benefit analysis? उसने कहा कि भाई ये दो वजह की वजह से हमें cost benefit analysis करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. तो लेकिन अदर स्टडीज जिन्होंने कैल्विन को क्रिटिक किया उन्होंने कहा वी कैन ओनली इम्प्लीमेंट टू पॉलिसीज हाउ if we can only implement two policies, how do we choose one? कौन सी वाली चूज करें? What is an alternative for? अगर हम सीपी नहीं कर सकते तो कैसे करें? ठीक है, so this was the chapter. I hope you understand. We talked about how cost benefit analysis can help and what are the challenges in this cost benefit analysis topic in implementing environmental projects or ensuring sustainability or ensuring that there is a market that is managing public goods or positive or negative externalities. Okay, if you have any questions you can ask now.